doing results upon the masses, and the entirety of the masses, the population, is displeased with the government, there's something wrong, right? There's something wrong, right? Across the board, across the world, right? What it's saying is very interesting. It is saying, don't challenge that type of government. Because one thing we have to stay away from is anarchy. Anarchy means complete chaos. You understand? Complete chaos, because if that system is finished, then nothing will be being done organized, right? And everything will crumble. And then it points that even forbidding evil and enjoining good will become difficult, because there is no law, there is no system, it's all bad, right? So what does it say to do? The word that it said last week that we went over is يَتَعَرَّبُ. Become like a Bedouin Arab. What did they do? The Prophet ﷺ amara Salma bin Aqwa. This was a Sahabi that the Prophet ﷺ commanded him when things got bad. He said, go out to the desert. Go out to the Sahara. Be with the Bedouins. Stay away from the fitan. Stay away from the city. Go be with your family for two reasons. So that the people will be safe from you, and so that you will be safe from the people. Right? If you involve yourself in trying to take a side or do something like this, you will become part of the fitan. These were just some of the things that we went over last week. There were several of them. Now that we're going to go over one hadith pertaining to this week. This is on the authority of the same Sahabi, the same companion that related what we read last week. His name is Hudayfa radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He relates so many ahadith radiallahu ta'ala anhu. May Allah bless his soul and all of the Sahaba. He said, وَعَنْهُ قَالَ سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول تعرض الفتن على القلوب كالحصير عودا عودا فأي قلب أشربها نكتت فيه نكتة سوداء وأي قلب أنكرها نكتت فيه نكتة بيضاء حتى يصير على قلبين أبيض مثل الصفاء فلا تضره فتنة ما دامت السماوات والأرض والآخر أسود مرباد كالكوز مجنخيا لا يعرف معروفا ولا ينكر منكرا إلا ما أشرب من هواه رواه Muslim. He's saying that he heard the Prophet ﷺ say, تعرض الفتن على القلوب كالحصير عودا عودا. تعرض means that it will be exposed, it will be presented, it will be displayed. The trials and tribulations that a person will go through leading up to the Day of Judgment, it will endure all of this upon the heart, the main thing of our body. And then he gives an example, kal hasir, like a mat, like that mat that you walk on. Udan udan, woven stick by stick. Interestingly, on all kinds of social media, especially YouTube, there is a very famous video of Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. And he quotes this same hadith, and if not the same hadith, the words are the same. And what he coins to this mat, udan udan, is the cell phone. Because he says, kal hasir. This is his tashbih. This is his way of deducting from this ahadith. Respected brothers, sisters, when we are talking about the alamat, the signs of the Day of Judgment, it's very difficult for someone to actually say that's what it is. Very difficult. Because these things will either it's happened, some of them, or they're going to come to pass, right? So it's very difficult to bring it all together. So what he said was that it will be presented to all of us, the fitan, the trials of this life, proceeding to the Day of Judgment, on something like a television, like a screen, or someone can even say like a cell phone, right? But he said screen, I believe, like a television, that you will see it. And that's actually very true, right? I'm not saying that's exactly what this means, but 100 years ago, you couldn't tell me what's happening anywhere, correct? Like, who knew about Burkina Faso, this country in Africa? No one knew about this country. But now we have this, mashallah, this brother over there, right? He's in charge of the government, and he's doing big things, and we know every detail about it. Why? It's because it's being brought to us, it's being exposed to us. You can say tu'ridu. It's being shown. It's not a fitan, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying the akhbar, the news of what's happening around the world, good or bad, it's being shown to you. Like what Shaykh Hamza said, on a mat. Now what is said here is a little bit different. First, the person who, the commentator, he explains through an ayah of the Quran. He says that in Sahih al-Bukhari, this is said in the Fi Kitab al-Qadr, the book of everything that's predestined. Because fitna is something that's already foretold. It's predestined. It's going to happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed this to happen already. So he says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وكان أمر الله قدرا مقدورا. That, and the matter of Allah was that it already has been decreed and destined. That all of these matters that are to come, it's been decreed and destined. It's important to kind of clear that up, because some people who have weak faith they want to live in a very magical, dreamlike world. Why is Allah doing all of this? Right? Why is this happening to the Muslims? They pray over there. Those guys go for Hajj over there. Why is this all happening to us? Respected brothers, sisters, these things are part of life for a believer. And on the opposite end, there is no such thing as a perfect world. This is not a magical world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you and I to live in the reality of what we are perceiving today. This is what the Quran is for. That you will be tested and you will overcome. Right? Like what we read in Maghrib, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ, fear, وَالْجُوعِ, hunger, وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ, difficulty when it comes to wealth, وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, right? Some mufassirin say that thamarat means results, right? Thamara, like fruit, right? وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, give glad tidings to those who have patience. Because they have this understanding that وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ, when they get tested by a trial, tribulation, a musiba, and in Urdu, musibat, what do they say? إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. They have this understanding that in the end, we are from Allah, and eventually to Allah we will return. This is the understanding that we should have. All of these things that I just mentioned in the Quran, you can see that's happening in Palestine today. May Allah help us. What he said is that, what does tu'ridu mean? تُعْرِضُ أَنَّهَا تَلْصَقُ بِعَرْضِ قُلُوبِ أي جانبها كما يلصق الحصير بجنب النائم ويؤثر فيه شدة التساقيها. Have you ever seen somebody who is has sleeping for a long time, and then when they wake up, like the imprint of the pillow is sort of on their skin? We've all seen this, right? 1400 years ago, they didn't have pillows and all these types of things. They would sleep on straw mats. He's saying that the mat that is woven stick by stick, they're comparing the fitan, the trials and tribulations will be presented to the heart, and it will have the effect on the heart just like when a person awakes from a deep sleep, from sleeping, and then when they awake, you could see the imprint of the mat on their body. Understand that he is saying that, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and the commentator, that this is how the trials and tribulations will be on the heart. We understand? أي تعاد وتكرر or تكرر شيئا بعد شيء. That these fitna, these trials will keep repeating one after another. وقال الأستاذ أبو عبد الله بن سليمان, and he quotes one of his teachers. His name is Abu Abdullah, the son of Sulaiman. معناه تظهر على القلوب, that it will be presented to the hearts. أي تظهر لها فتنة بعد أخرى. Each fitna will take place and another one will come right after it. قال صاحب التحرير معنى الحديث, another commentator said that the meaning of this hadith, أن الرجل إذا اتبع هواه, that if a man obeys his inner desires, وارتكب المعاصي, and he involves himself or she involves herself in sin, in the disobedience of Allah, دخل قلبه بكل معصية يتعاطاها ظلمة, that the fitna and its effect will have such an effect on the heart that as long as they are repeating all of this disobedience, then the effect that it will have, that their heart will become like dhulmatun. It will become darkened. وَإِذَا صَارَ كَذَلِكَ, and if it became like that, أُفْتُتِنَ وَزَالَ عَنْهُ نُورُ الْإِسْلَامِ. And as this person proceeds, and a person is indulging in disobedience, then the nur of Islam will leave the heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save all of us. He goes on to say, وَالْقُلُوبُ مِثْلُ الْكُوزِ, that the heart is just like a container, like a jug, right? Like this right here. If I were to put this upside down, then all of the water in it will be poured out, correct? And if I leave it like this, then nothing else can come inside. He says that the heart is like that. فَإِذَا إِنْكَبَّ إِنْصَبَّ, once it is perfectly turned over, then all of what is in it is poured out. Here, it's the heart. And what they're talking about is the nur of Islam. The fitna is such that the trial and tribulation is that it'll keep striking our hearts. It'll keep coming at us one after another, until the heart will become just like a container, a vessel, a jug that has been flipped upside down and nothing can penetrate it again. وَلَمْ يَدْخُلُهُ شَيْءٍ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ, and nothing will enter it again. This is something that it's very hard, I just feel sometimes, and this is the words of Imam al-Nawawi, by the way, the great Imam. He's the one who commented on this, just this line of this hadith. Respected brothers, sisters, when we are living in the West, I want everyone, I hope that I'm learning from what I'm saying, and I hope all of us are. please be open to constructive criticism. Please be open to some type of change if it's coming by way of someone else telling you. A lot of us, it's very difficult for us to accept anything that's against our lifestyle. And if it's like that, perhaps a person was being sincere to make us stay away from something that will destroy our hereafter. But we didn't catch it because of our pride. And that is something that we all have to deal with. And I find myself, especially out here, dealing with that a lot. Just to tell you something that's in my heart, I work with a community that is incarcerated. The incarcerated population, if you tell them something and you are very direct with them, they love it. Even if it's the hardest conversation in the world. They're like, okay, thank you. I need to hear that. Sometimes they have to bring it out of me. They say, just tell me straight. Give it to me directly. Become forthcoming. Just lay it down, right? On the outside, people say that, but once you say it, now it's a fight. It's like, oh, okay, no, but that's how you look at it. Well, I'm looking at it in another way. Sometimes the person who is actually addressing the matter, you have to have confidence in what he is saying. Unless there's something that he is missing. Unless there's something that he's missing and there's a part that he needs to know, then he could come to the conclusion. Other than that, respected brothers, sisters, the a'imma, the ulama, and also even when someone says ulama, scholars, we have to also look at what does that mean. This is maybe a good time just to define what is a scholar, right? What is a scholar? In Islam, one way to identify a scholar is what Imam Muslim says in his preface, in his muqaddamah. He says, Al-Isnadu min ad-Din. The sanad, the chain of narrations, the chain that you receive from your teacher. For instance, many of us, when we read a hadith in the seminaries, in the madaris that we studied in, after we were finished in the last year, they gave us something called an ijaza. It is the permission to transmit this knowledge to other people, or this hadith. That person was given that permission by his teacher, and he was given it by his teacher, and he was granted by his teacher, and the chain goes all the way to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. This is what we call a isnad, a sanad, right? Sanad is plural, isnad is isnad is plural, sanad is singular. Al-isnadu min ad-din. Abdullah bin Mubarak, he said, the great muhaddith, that the sanad, this chain, it's a part of the religion. وَلَوْلَا الْإِسْنَادِ, if it wasn't for the sanad, لَقَالَ مَنْ شَاءَ مَا شَاءَ, then people would say whatever they want to say. There would be no authority. You understand? So we have to respect that authority, and going back to this, sometimes that authority is sincere and wants to tell us something that has to do with our hereafter and has to do with the fitan of this time. Going back to that hadith. So he said that كَالْحَسِيرُ عُودًا عُودًا. The fitan will be presented to the mat, to the heart, like a mat, like woven sticks that are inside the mat. And we coined that to be that the fitan will appear one after another, and until a person's heart will be completely affected to the point that nothing else will be able to come into the heart. And that truly is a fitan. Then he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَأَيُّ قَلْبٍ أُشْرِبَهَا, that any heart that absorbs it, that drinks it. And he says, يُقَالْ أُشْرِبُ فِي قَلْبِهِ حُبُّهُ. There's a saying that his heart drank its love. His heart absorbed his love. And today I learned a new word, imbibed. Imbibed. Imbibed means that when somebody is extremely thirsty and you give them something to drink, then they absorb it completely, right? His heart was made to drink its love. It imbibed its love. So he says that any heart that accepts the fitna, that accepts it, says, oh, this is okay, this is all right, this is part of life, this is whatever definition they give it, and they open up their heart and they let it enter and they let it mix. وَدَخَلَتْ فِيهِ دُخُولًا تَامًا وَلَزِمَهَا لَزُومًا كَامِلًا وَحَلَّتْ مِنْهُ مَحَلَّ الشَّرَابِ فِي نُفُوذِ الْمَصَامِ وَتَنْفِيذَ الْمَرَامِ وَفِيهِ قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى أُشْرِبُوا فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الْعِجْلَ بِكُفْرِهِمْ. I just have some notes because it was just so long to try to understand this whole thing. But it says that the fitna, it means that the meaning is the person becomes influenced by tribulations. And to absorb here means the mixing of like two colors, one absorbing the other until it is fully coated in its hue. Meaning it mingled with him. The meaning is he mingled with the tribulations, became mixed up in them, they entered into him completely, and it clung to him with a full attachment. And it took place in him just like when you drink something, how you absorb it. And when you drink something, what happens? It penetrates even when something is wet, and if you're looking at the heart and you're thinking of fitna, and the fitna is like something that is wet, you can say. It penetrates into the pores, fulfilling their aim. From this comes the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Bani Israel, they were made to drink, meaning they were made to absorb the kaf into their hearts because of their disbelief. What is the background story? Is that Bani Israel, Musa alayhi salam, left them for 40 days. When Musa alayhi salam left them for 40 days, they started to worship a calf. His name was Samiri, a man by the name of Samiri, introduced to them a calf. They started to worship that calf. That calf became so beloved to them that outwardly they were worshiping the calf. But inwardly, they decided that I'm not going to believe in Allah and my Lord is the calf now. This is the type of fitan this is talking about. Because it's talking about the heart. You know when somebody has decided something deeply? Like that's it. And they don't see any other way. This is the fitna that it's talking about. That the heart will become completely affected by it. It said that the heart doesn't just see or hear temptation, it drinks it and internalizes it. This reflects total emotional and spiritual entanglement. And then it gives a comparison to dye, D-Y-E, that the simile likens the penetration of desires to how liquid seeps through pores or how dye stains fabric. Just think of the fabric being the heart and the dye being the fitna. It suggests invisible but irreversible transformation. Outwardly subtle and inwardly complete. It will take over your heart. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. أي حب العجل والإشراب خلط لون بلون كأن أحد اللونين that the love for the calf became so much penetrated into the heart that it became mixed up to the point that both of the colors got consumed and became one. Then he keeps going and he says, the hadith continues and it says, نُكِتَتْ فِيهِ نُكْتَةٌ سَوْدَاء. So any heart that is affected like this, then a black dot will appear on the heart. That's where the dye was coming in, when it comes to the cloth and dye. وَأَيُّ قَلْبٍ أَنْكَرَهَا نُكِتَتْ فِيهِ نُكْتَةٌ بَيْضَاء. And any heart that repels the fitan, any heart that makes this decision that I'm not going to get affected, and that could not just be my thought, that could be from hijrah, that could be erasing an app, that could be cutting off a certain friend, that could be getting help if you have a specific condition. That could be so many things. But because it was the fitna that it's pertaining in this hadith, so it says that نُكِتَتْ فِيهِ نُكْتَةٌ سَوْدَاء وَأَيُّ قَلْبٍ أَنْكَرَهَا نُكِتَتْ فِيهِ نُكْتَةٌ بَيْضَاء حَتَّى يَسِيرَ عَلَى قَلْبَيْنِ. So when this happens and a person is fighting with themselves and the heart is exposed to the fitna, and there's one type that has the black, the darkness on it, and one heart has the ability to reject, then the heart becomes one of two kinds of hearts. أَبْيَضُ مِثْلُ الصَّفَا فَلَا تَضُرُّ فِتْنَةٌ مَا دَامَ السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضِ. One of the hearts becomes brightened and white, just like marble, like smooth marble. And nothing will affect that heart after it rejects the fitna from the time of rejection all the way until Yawm al-Qiyamah. And it's saying that in the commentary that this has nothing to do with the whiteness of the rock. This has to do with the ability of stone not allowing anything to penetrate it. وَالْآخَرُ أَسْوَدُ مِرْبَادٌ. And the other type of heart will be something like a dusty color. Something mixed between gray and blackness. كَالْكُوزِ مُجْنَخِيًّا. And we talked about this, like it will become like a type of vessel. Like a clay pot is like a kuz, but in our time like a jug or a cup. That is turned upside down and tilted to the point that nothing will be able to enter in it. And what is the result of it? لَا يَعْرِفُ مَعْرُوفًا وَلَا يُنْكِرُ مُنْكَرًا. That if it sees any goodness, it will not be able to recognize it. And if it sees any evil, it will not be able to repel it, to reject it, to stop it. إِلَّا مَا أُشْرِبَ مِنْ هَوَاهُ. Except that it will be influenced by its desires. And this is the whole hadith. What we can say about this in regards to what's happening in this time is this idea of being so comfortable with everything that people don't consider even what is wrong anymore. Like back in the day, if you came across somebody, may Allah help us all, who had a drinking problem, alcohol, and you went to them and said, hey brother, this is something that you have to work on, this and that. Many times the person would tell you, you're right, I'm weak. Nowadays, we come across so many people who say, well, didn't Allah create this? Well, doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want me to be happy? Look at what these people are doing all around the world. I'm just here having a drink. Why are you comparing yourself to IDF? You have a Budweiser in your hand, and you're comparing yourself to the IDF. What's going on? Is everything okay? Why are you comparing yourself to those people who don't believe in God? Right? Why don't we just revisit this and call it for what it is? When the heart is completely turned over, who can argue with it? Who can argue with that type of heart? Respected brothers, sisters, the thing about this trial and tribulation is the person who has been afflicted, they won't know it. They will not know. They will argue with you and they will let you know that they are right. And this is a great, great problem in our society, subhanAllah, even with Muslims. Even with Muslims. And what makes it worse is the common Muslim in today's world does not necessarily go to a scholar for answers or a talib of ilm, a student of knowledge. Because it's easy for us to just go to what is more convenient. A lot of people go to AI, ChatGPT, A lot of people will go to a video, right? Like the family, I was telling the brothers earlier, right, mashallah, we're painting in our house. So painting is a very good example. Because on the outside, painting looks fun. So yes, let's paint the walls. This is fun. You're going to dip it and you're going to paint it. After you really start painting, the fun all goes away. And if you don't have experience in, putting tape, the masking tape and prepping before you paint, now you're in trouble. Right? So the thing is that in this time and age, I was trying to correlate that to something, I totally forgot. In this time and age, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In this time and age, the issue that we are experiencing is that it's very difficult for people to understand and to admit that they don't know. That's what I was saying. Is that, now what did we do when we found out, one thing about painting, again, this dars is not about painting, but one thing that's very difficult is that if you plan to paint the ceiling, if you don't want to paint the ceiling, you can't just take the roller and roller all the way up because it's going to hit the ceiling and now there's going to be paint on the ceiling. So my son, Zallah Khair, he looked on YouTube and he saw this thing where you could just go across and it makes a perfect line. Right? That's well and good when it comes to painting. But when it comes to the Quran and Hadith, when it comes to Qiyas and Ijma, our deen has to do with 4 things. Quran, Hadith, consensus, and Qiyas. Analogical reasoning. Something that wasn't at the time of the Sahaba. How will I deal with it now in light of the Quran and Hadith? There is this understanding online, you hear it all the time, especially on Instagram, that we are all about Quran and Hadith, but our deen isn't just Quran and Hadith. Our deen has to do with consensus and ijma as well.
What's consensus? What do you mean?
Consensus means the ijma of the scholars. Something that learned scholars got together and decided that this matter will be fixed like this, and their guide was Quran, Hadith, Usul. Right? Like, I could maybe say, even though in America this is also a little bit of a can of worms, but the consensus for the most part, not in America, but I'm saying in Northern California, is that the Qibla is 18 degrees. North, 18 to the east. Right? There's a bit of a consensus on this. Why? Because it's the fastest route. Right? If someone were to just go direct, well, that's not actually how the world is. The world is round. I mean, for me to even say that, it's kind of interesting, right? That people have to kind of understand that. But the fastest route is 18. How did we come up with that? Some learned people not just scholars, but people who have umuq. They're deep in this fund. They're deep in this science. Then, along with Islamic scholarship, came together, and there was somewhat of a consensus. This is just a small example of consensus, right? Why is that? Because we have a consensus that came from the time of the Sahaba, right? As-salatu khayrun min an-nawm. Did the Prophet ﷺ say this? No. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say this. Who said this? Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. Why? Because of the wording makes a lot of sense. Summertime, as-salatu khayrun min an-nawm, right? Adhan is given at 4:45 a.m. Prayer is better than sleep. Prayer is better than sleep has been added to the adhan, right? I'm not sure if this specific example was brought by ijma', but it definitely later on resulted in ijma', that no one disagrees that this is part of our deen. But was it from the Quran directly? No. Was it from the words of the Prophet ﷺ? Not necessarily. Is it a good thing? Of course it is a good thing. Everyone does it. We do it, and that's part of the religion now, right? I'll give you an example of something kind of like qiyas, right? These are small examples. There are scholarly examples. There's examples for the awam. Like these rows that we have in our masajid. Look at the carpet. The carpet has this design on it, correct? But that's not just a design. That is so that our row will be straight when we are praying, right? At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ himself would straighten the rows. He would straighten the rows. He would push people back, Sahaba front to. Now, this is something that is being done sort of automatically. The Imam can say, put your heels on the line, brothers. Put your toes on the line, brothers, right? Is it a good thing? Absolutely. Was it at the time of the Prophet ﷺ? It wasn't. It was not, right? The people online bringing this back to this subject, to this fitna that's happening, one thing that is happening online is anything that is new or anything that is not according to a specific ideology, they will title it as a bid'ah, as an innovation. This is, first of all, the hadith of innovation. One of the hadith in correlation to innovation says that any new thing that is innovated is an innovation. It is dalala. It is misguidance. And any type of misguidance is in the fire. Right? Would someone say that this amal is in the fire? How can this be in the fire? Cannot. Right? The fitna that we can kind of relate what's happening in the ahadith to what is happening to us right now has a lot to do with what is happening online. Has a lot to do with social media. What I was saying about the painting was that well and good for your car, for your wall, for painting, we are relying on YouTube. This is a good thing. My son wouldn't have not known about that thing. We would have got the wall all messed up, right? So many things, right? And by the way, if you're a mechanic, if you're not a mechanic, go to a mechanic. I don't think that YouTube is always going to do it. You might do something wrong, right? Because then the mechanics these days, they say, did you see this on YouTube? Well, now I'm going to charge you another $500 because you know what you're doing. Well and good for all of these things. But when it comes to the deen, the big fitna that is happening today, and it's kind of contrary because right now we are doing this online, but the big fitna that we are going through today is when we want our answers to what pertains to the akhirah, what pertains to our deen, We rely only on what is online. And how do we do that? We have the menu. A person from the awam, a person who hasn't studied the sciences of the deen. Some of those sciences have to do with sarf, nahwu, grammar, morphology, balagha, which is rhetoric, tafsir, explanation of the Quran, usul of tafsir, the rules of how to explain the Quran, fiqh, jurisprudence, usul of fiqh, the rules of jurisprudence, hadith, usul of hadith, right? Some people think that there's only two terms in hadith. There is sahih and there's da'if, when there's actually 18 terms. Even sahih has two terms to it. Sahih li nafsihi wa sahih li ghayrihi. There's hasan. There's hasan li nafsihi, hasan li ghayrihi. There is da'if, there is mawdu', there is hadith al-kidhib. There is some ahadith that are batil. What's the difference between kidhib and batil? These are sciences. All of these are sciences, right? Balagha, such an important science. If someone doesn't know balagha and he picks up the Quran and starts translating literally, he will definitely make a mistake. He will make a mistake. So we have laymen online. And what is online? Everyone has a mic. There is no checks and balances. And even in that there is a fitna. Because one guy is saying one thing and another guy is saying another thing, and so many followers are behind each camp, and everyone loves the fight. They love that fight. They're like, yeah, well, our guy does this, and this guy's on this, and we are Muslim. Sometimes I think to myself that all of these guys are fighting. Some of those people who don't like Muslims, they're laughing at us. They're saying, this is on autopilot. We don't have to do nothing. Let these guys just fight each other. This guy looks like that guy, and that guy looks like this guy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from all these fitan. The last part I just want to recap so that we don't forget that what this was all about. La ya'rifu munkaran, that a person will not know or recognize evil for what it is. وَلَا يَعْرِفُ مَعْرُوفًا عَفْوًا. I'm sorry. لَا يَعْرِفُ مَعْرُوفًا. They will not know any goodness. وَلَا يُنْكِرُ مُنْكَرًا. And any evil that they come across or see, they will not know how to repel it, go against it, talk about it, anything. إِلَّا مَا أُشْرِبَ مِنْ هَوَاهُ. Except whatever of their desires has influenced them, that is the way that they will go. This is the typical attitude of a young person in America. I'm 18. You can't tell me what to do. I'm 18. What is the dalil? That هذا بلغ 18 في السن. This person has become 18 years old. Just according to that, he or she thinks, أنا ربكم الأعلى. I am the king of the world. No one can tell me. But who told you that? Who told you this? When the parents are looking at somebody who says, I'm 18, I can do whatever, we are not looking at 18. We are looking at this guy I changed his diaper is telling me I'm 18. Who is this guy? Who is this person in front of me? I'm 18. Right? The last thing, just not to prolong this, my own father, subhanAllah, I'm turning 45 this year. My own father said, when I look at you, I just remember that baby who every time will put the bottle in the crib and you'll start drinking it, and I'll turn around, the bottle will just fly in the air and you'll throw it out. He said, that's the guy. I don't know anything else other than the bottle thrower. Because that's the way he looks at me, right? I'm the bottle thrower. He said, every time you have to pick up the bottle, give it back, and you just throw it out. You'll take 2 sips and just throw it out. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from all the fitan. The reason why we are doing this program is to increase our knowledge and so that we can recognize the fitan. And today's hadith has to do with the fitan that will be absorbed in the hearts, which indicates that we have it's a spiritual warfare that is going on. And the only way for us to be protected from that is to look into our hearts and protect it through the dhikr of Allah. Through the dhikr of Allah, brothers. And to stay away from sin. To stay away from sin and to make the dhikr of Allah, to be in the company of pious people. Bi-idhnillah, this will save us from all these fitan. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله على النبي الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. جزاكم الله خيرا.